Jai Hind and a very good morning to all of you. Welcome to the daily current affairs and MCQ series. I believe that you all are doing good and your preparation is also going fine. So the first article that we are discussing today that concerns obviously the Russia-Ukraine crisis, and the United Nations Security Council meted tried to move a resolution condemning the Russian aggression in Ukraine, but to no further future, or you can say success. Why? Because it had, obviously in the first place it was understood that Russia is going to veto it, Russia is going to vote against it, but still at least the world powers, they tried to move this resolution. So what becomes important is the Russia-Ukraine crisis, the role played by United Nations Security Council, and what is the stand that India is taking. So this was a draft resolution that was moved against or condemning the Russian aggression, and it was introduced on the request, or you can say by the United States, right? But it failed to pass, it failed to get passed at the UNSC because many countries abstained, and also Russia vetoed it, or you can say voted against it. And remember, Russia is one of those permanent members at the UNSC, right? So what is the Indian stand? We as it was largely expected, काफी ज़्यादा इस बारे में क्लैरिटी थी ही कि इंडिया abstain ही करेगा. It will not, it is a very tight rope which India has been forced to walk. You cannot just antagonize either the Russians or the West. There are certain geopolitical equations which really matter to India. देखो, जो otherwise सोशल मीडिया पे डिबेट चल रही है, या जो लोग जिस तरीके से डिबेट कर रहे हैं ना कि हमें रशिया की तरफ साइड लेनी चाहिए या हमें यूएस की साइड लेनी चाहिए, क्योंकि यूएस के साथ हमारा बहुत स्ट्रेटेजिक रिलेशनशिप है, पर्टिकुलरली जो ये आज की डेट में एनडीए डिस्पेंसेशन है, इट हैज इन्वेस्टेड हेवीली, इट हैज इन्वेस्टेड पॉलिटिकल कैपिटल वेरी हेवीली इन Washington. But that is not how easy or simple things are. You need to understand, you need to appreciate that there are a host of factors which go into taking a decision as to what should be done and what should not be done. And that is why oversimplifying things, या कह लो ये कह देना कि हमें रशियंस की तरफ हो जाना चाहिए, क्योंकि देखो जी 1971 की लिबरेशन वॉर जब था बांग्लादेश का, तब भी रशियंस हमारे साथ खड़े थे. हमारी डिफेंस इक्विपमेंट में बहुत सारे मैन्युफैक्चरिंग पार्ट्स जो हैं वो आज की डेट में रशियन से आते हैं. S-400 ट्रायम्फ मिसाइल सिस्टम हमें रशिया ने दिया है, तो सीधा सीधे रशिया के साथ हो जाओ, वेस्ट को एंटेगनाइज कर दो, कोई बात नहीं. दैट ऑल्सो इज ओवर सिंप्लीफाइंग द थिंग्स. दैट ऑल्सो इज it also does not make sense. And that is why it is really a diplomatic tightrope which India has been forced to walk right now, right? And that is why it was decided कि हम abstain करें अभी फिलहाल. तो अब देखो ये जो abstention है, इससे further what this abstention has led India to keep the options open for future. That is future में जिस तरीके से हमें अपनी जो भी ठीक लगेंगी चीजें, या कह लो जैसे भी सिचुएशन इवॉल्व होती है, बिकॉज सर्टेनली इट इज एन इवॉल्विंग सिचुएशन, तो उसके हिसाब से विल बी एबल टू मेक आवर मूव्स, राइट? सो दैट इज व्हाई it is important that we had abstained, not either supporting or outrightly rejecting it, right? Then Russia was the only member to have abstained, or not to have abstained, but to have voted against the resolution. And US now has said that the next logical step which we are going to take is to take this thing to the UNGA, that is the United Nations General Assembly, right? That is what the US has said, where the Russians would not be having a veto power, and there we will be able to put this matter in front of all the UN member nations in the UNGA, which is supposed to meet at the request of US again, right? So that is the actual thing which is undergoing. Apart from that, what exactly is the option which Russia is having right now? Everybody is calling Russia to immediately cease the violence, immediate cessation of violence. That is what India also has told Russia when Prime Minister Modi had a telephonic conversation with Vladimir Putin, right? So if we just take a look at what are the probable options which Russia is having, so one is that already Russian forces are at the doorsteps of Kyiv. We all know that, right? They are almost at a striking distance of the Ukrainian capital Kyiv, and it's a matter of time only when Kiev falls, right? You all must have viewed it on your television screens. a very emotional address made by Ukrainian President Zelensky. He, was not donning even his traditional attire. He was not in a suit. He was just wearing a casual t-shirt, and that is how he appeared in front of the world, making a very emotional appeal. What did Zelensky say? He had to say that every European leader he had spoken to, including, in excess of 20-25 odd leaders, nobody committed to come to the aid of Ukraine. So that simply says that Ukraine has been left to fend for itself. Point number one. And this makes us realize that it is only going to be the Russians who are going to have an upper hand. सिर्फ रशिया के पास ही आज की डेट में it has the positioning which enables it to dictate terms as to what would be the outcome of this conflict. So we can have three options. One is either the like of Berlin Wall. If you remember world history, East Germany and West Germany, the division of Germany which happened, and there was the Berlin Wall which came up. Similarly, either this could go the Eastern Ukraine way and the Western Ukraine way. The Western Ukraine certainly would be, the US supported, the West backed Western Ukraine, and an Eastern part of Ukraine which could be possibly an ally of the Russians. But that I don't think so is, would happen eventually, because we all know the fate of Berlin Wall, right? So what is the second alternate? The second alternate is that, as the Russians are calling that, the Ukrainians themselves, they just uninstall or they just throw away the present administration, the Zelensky government, and install a puppet administration in Ukraine which follows the lines of Russia, which toes the line of Vladimir Putin. That could be the second option. The third option is a direct occupation of Kiev by Russia. That certainly is a very remote option. Certainly, President Putin knows the costs involved if they were to, have a direct occupation of Ukraine. So that I would suggest that, that is really ruled out of the cards right now. So the two options, and the first one also, it's largely ruled out. So only the second thing remains, that is they're going to install a friendly regime. They would want to have a friendly regime, or to say, you can say a regime which is more or less subservient to the Russians, right? So that is how it is going to be. Certainly it's heart-wrenching, Ahana, I would agree to that. It's heart-wrenching, but in diplomacy, in international relations, you have to be strong enough, you have to be, capable enough to fend for your own interests, to fight for your own country, to fight for your own sovereignty. And as has been witnessed time and again, this is history repeating itself. Why am I saying this, that history is repeating itself? Because it was the West which hid against, which hid behind hollow words when it came to Crimea in 2014. They did nothing effectively to stop Russia. Then it was Afghanistan, where they abandoned the Afghan population, the Afghan army, and just let the Taliban have their way. And today also we all know what exactly is the fate of Afghanistan. Right, that is also where a massive failure of the West was witnessed by the world. And now this is the Ukrainian crisis. Outright violation of Ukrainian territorial integrity and sovereignty, all because major reason, West wanted them to be their ally, but still not making them a member of NATO, not making them a part of the collective defense mechanism of NATO, and still now also when they are under war, they are under invasion, they are under attack, West is simply not sending forces. West is not standing up to Ukraine, and that is why you had President Zelensky making that emotional appeal, right? So that is why it really makes it clear that who really the West has always been notorious for abandoning its allies. That is what is being witnessed right now as well, right? So let's get back to the discussion. Enough for today. Moving to the question now. Yes. So which of the following statements are correct in the light of Russia-Ukraine crisis? First, a draft resolution was moved at the UNSC condemning Russian aggression in Ukraine, which was sponsored by the US and Albania. Second, the draft resolution included the United Nations Chapter 7. And third, invoking the UN Chapter 7 in the present context would mean authorizing the use of force against Russian troops in Ukraine. Yes, so please mark your answers quickly. Okay, so we are having some answers here. Rashi says D, Rohit says C, Anu also says C. Right, great. So look, when we talk about the first statement, that is, a draft resolution which was sponsored by United States and Albania was moved for condemning Russian aggression in Ukraine. That is absolutely right. So you have first statement as true. Second is incorrect because they dropped, or they, in the original form of the draft, US wanted to include the UN Chapter 7, which would have meant that they are authorizing the use of force against Russian troops in Ukraine. But that has not happened and it was dropped. In the original draft resolution, they had included it, but when they moved the draft, it was missing. So second is incorrect. Third is absolutely fine, that if, having invoked UN Chapter 7, they would have authorized the use of force in Ukraine against Russian troops. Right, so third is absolutely true. 1 and 3 will be the answer. Option A. ठीक है जी, चलिए तो बढ़ते हैं अगले आर्टिकल की तरफ. That is the explanation. You can read it in the PDF. Moving to the next article, that is explained. So coming to the digital or cyber security domain, that is Kerala High Court has categorically said कि WhatsApp पे या किसी भी मैसेजिंग ऐप पे अगर कोई थर्ड पार्टी है जिसका कोई लेना देना नहीं है उस मैसेज से, बट जस्ट बिकॉज that person happens to be the admin of that WhatsApp group or any group for that matter on any messaging app, तो simply आप उसी बेसिस पे उसकी criminal liability fix नहीं कर सकते, जिसको आप किस नाम से जानते हो, that is the vicarious or vicious liability, right? So the Kerala High Court has said that admins of WhatsApp groups are not liable, or they cannot be held liable for any objectionable post that has been made by any of the group members. कि भाई ग्रुप मेंबर की रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी है वो, जस्ट बिकॉज एक पर्सन उस ग्रुप का व्हाट्सएप ग्रुप का एडमिन है, डज नॉट गिव दैट पर्सन द अथॉरिटी टू स्टॉप दैट पर्सन फ्रॉम मेकिंग दैट पोस्ट विच माइट टर्न आउट टू बी ऑब्जेक्शनेबल एंड अनलॉफुल. सो द व्हाट्सएप ग्रुप एडमिन हैज नो रोल इन इट. ठीक है, ये केस बेसिकली क्यों हुआ है केरला हाईकोर्ट में? बिकॉज वन पर्सन वॉज अरेस्टेड by the police. A case was registered against him because one of the group members of that WhatsApp group of which this person was an admin shared some child related pornographic material, and that is why a case was registered against that person who shared that material and also the person who was the admin of that WhatsApp group. So he moved the Kerala High Court, and the Kerala High Court had said that कि भाई कोई ऐसी चीज नहीं है जो एस्टैब्लिश कर सके कि इस व्यक्ति का क्राइम का कोई इंटेंट था या फिर इसने कोई क्राइम किया है. राइट, क्यों? क्योंकि जो क्रिमिनल जूरिस्प्रूडेंस में जो हम डॉक्ट्रिन की बात करते हैं, दैट इज मेंस रिया, राइट, दैट इज द मेंटल एलिमेंट ऑफ अ पर्सन्स इंटेंशन टू कमिट अ क्राइम और हैविंग नॉलेज दैट वंस एक्शन और लैक ऑफ एक्शन वुड कॉज अ क्राइम. अब यहां पे भाई उस व्यक्ति को क्या पता कि जो भी व्हाट्सएप मेंबर्स उस व्हाट्सएप ग्रुप में मेंबर्स हैं वो क्या पोस्ट डालेंगे या वो क्या पोस्ट डाल सकते हैं. सो दैट सिंपली डज नॉट फिट इन दिस ज्यूरिस्प्रूडेंस ऑफ क्रिमिनल ज्यूरिसडिक्शन, राइट? एंड this should be, this must be an ingredient of the offense if you really want to make that person culpable or charge upon him, or you want to charge that person, right? That is, both the act and the intent must concur with or must concur to constitute a crime. So the person was, the proceedings, the case, the charges were quashed, and the Kerala High Court said that that person is not guilty, he is free, right? So आपके लिए इंपॉर्टेंट क्या है यहाँ पे? इंफॉर्मेशन टेक्नोलॉजी एक्ट. क्यों? क्योंकि केरला हाई कोर्ट ने एक चीज और भी कही, दैट अंडर द डेफिनेशन ऑफ इंटरमीडियरी it is not the admin of a WhatsApp group who can be said to be an intermediary as per the provisions of the Information Technology Act, right? And that is why the person was granted acquittal. ठीक है, तो ये बेसिक चीज है यहाँ पे इस आर्टिकल में. ब्रीफली मैंने बता दिया, वैसे आई होप आपने रीड करा होगा इस आर्टिकल को. सो मूविंग टू द क्वेश्चन. हाँ जी, that is vicarious liability or vicarious liability was recently seen in news. Which of the following statements is or are correct in that context? First, this liability can arise when one party is held partly liable or responsible for the unlawful actions of a third party. Second, presently there is no law by which an admin of any messaging service can be held liable for a post made by a member in the group. Yes, so please mark your answers. Please quickly mark your answers. Okay, so Anu and Mehboob are saying answer should be C. Rashi also says C. Great. ठीक है, सही है जी. देखो सिंपल सी बात है कि अभी कोई ऐसा लॉ नहीं है. केरला हाई कोर्ट हैज मेड इट वेरी क्लियर दैट देयर इज प्रेजेंटली नो लॉ बाय व्हिच यू कैन होल्ड एनी एडमिन ऑफ अ व्हाट्सएप ग्रुप or any group for that matter, or any messaging platform, right, for anything which has been posted by a member of that group. So that is fine, and this is also true that that is the definition of vicarious liability, right? Vicarious liability. ठीक है, तो answer certainly for question number 2 will be C. That is both 1 and 2 are correct, right? चलिए, so moving to the next article now. That is Giriraj Singh launches app for ombudsman app, or launches the ombudsman app for Mahatma Gandhi NREGA. अब ये हमने कल भी नरेगा के रिगार्डिंग डिस्कस किया था. राजस्थान ने भी कुछ चीजें लॉन्च की हैं, है ना. राजस्थान हैज आल्सो लॉन्च्ड इट्स अर्बन और इंदिरा गांधी शहरी रोजगार गारंटी योजना, राइट. सो लेट्स फर्स्ट टेक द क्वेश्चन एंड अकॉर्डिंगली we are going to discuss the provisions, right? So moving to the question, that is which of the following statements is or are correct with respect to the ombudsman app for MNREGA, that is the Mahatma Gandhi National Rural Employment Guarantee Act. First, the Rajasthan government has unveiled it along with its newly announced Indira Gandhi Urban Employment Guarantee Scheme. Second, presently the reporting of complaints regarding the Rural Guarantee Scheme is done through physical forms. Yes. So please mark your answers. You certainly have the Union Minister who was launching this app, but apart from that, has Rajasthan also launched it? Because remember, Rajasthan has also made certain modifications in its मनरेगा provisions, है ना. 100 से 125 दिन कर दिए हैं राजस्थान ने मनरेगा के लिए, या कह लो एटलीस्ट अनाउंस कर दिया है. they are going to notify it. चलिए, विवेक एंड चंद्रकांत एंड राशि वी आर हैविंग आंसर्स एज A, C and D, right. So if we talk about the first statement, then it is only the union government that has launched it and not the state of Rajasthan, right. So first is incorrect. Although Rajasthan has announced the IGU EGS, that is the Indira Gandhi Urban Employment Guarantee Scheme, and they have also revised the मनरेगा limit in Rajasthan from 100 to 125 days, है ना, increase कर दिया इन्होंने. पर first जो statement that is incorrect. Then the second statement, that is presently जो reporting है of complaints regarding rural guarantee scheme, that is this is nothing else but this is मनरेगा only. ठीक है, या MGNERGS. So that is done through physical forms or in a physical format, right. और जिसको अभी क्या करने की कोशिश कर रहे हैं, डिजिटाइज करने की कोशिश कर रहे हैं. तो ऑब्वियसली सेकंड स्टेटमेंट सही है, आपका आंसर होगा बी, क्योंकि आपसे पूछा क्या था, करेक्ट स्टेटमेंट, राइट. So your answer will be B, that is first statement is incorrect because it is not the Rajasthan government but rather the union government, Union Minister of Rural Development and Panchayati Raj, who had launched the मनरेगा ombudsman app, right. That is the first statement. Sorry, yeah, that is why the first statement was incorrect, है ना. And it will help, or it is a step towards e-governance. How e-governance? Because anybody who's facing or who's not getting proper wages, or maybe in their area the मनरेगा is not working properly, they can file their complaints, they can put it to the government through this app, right. And expressing concerns over the appointments of ombudspersons, the union minister also said that many states, they have not appointed ombudspersons in many of the districts, and that has come to the notice that many political appointees or people from political parties are also being appointed. तो इसका मतलब ये है, देखो सिंपल सी बात है, अगर जनता का कोई grievance है, if there is any grievance which the people are having, certainly they have to have a mechanism to get their grievance redressed, and that is where the ombudsman, the ombudspersons and the office of ombudsman, that becomes very relevant. ठीक है, तो ये प्रीलिम्स पर्सपेक्टिव से भी एक इंफॉर्मेशन है जो इस आर्टिकल में आपको मिलती है. दूसरा, मेंस पर्सपेक्टिव से भी, ई गवर्नेंस पर्सपेक्टिव से भी दिस बिकम्स इंपॉर्टेंट, राइट. चलिए, सो along with that, it was an appeal that was made कि सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट के साथ जो है स्टेट्स और यूटीज कोऑपरेट करें, ताकि ज्यादा से ज्यादा लोग जो हैं ombudsperson ऐप के साथ जुड़ के और ज्यादा ट्रांसपेरेंट तरीके से मनरेगा को इंप्लीमेंट करवा सके, राइट. चलिए, सो मूविंग टू द नेक्स्ट आर्टिकल नाउ. दिस कंसर्न्स द 3D मैन्युफैक्चरिंग पॉलिसी, है ना. तो क्या है बेसिकली, दैट इज द नेशनल स्ट्रैटेजी फॉर एडिटिव मैन्युफैक्चरिंग, या जिसको आप क्या कहते हो 3D प्रिंटिंग या फिर एडिटिव मैन्युफैक्चरिंग, either which way you want to call it, right? So what has happened is that in this policy or under this policy, MeitY or the Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology, it is hoping that will be able to add a substantial amount of $1 billion to the GDP of India within a period of 3 years, that is by maybe 2025, right? So what basically is MeitY trying to do is that to give support to the domestic players, है ना, और इसके चलते हम कंट्री में इसको इंक्रीज कर सके। तो एक तो ये आपके लिए पॉलिसी इंपॉर्टेंट हो गई, और दूसरा 3D प्रिंटिंग एंड इट्स कंट्रीब्यूशन टू द जीडीपी, एंड ऑल्सो व्हाट एग्जैक्टली इज एडिटिव प्रिंटिंग और 3D प्रिंटिंग, राइट? सो बेसिकली कुछ नहीं है इसमें, आप क्या करते हो कि कंप्यूटर एडेड डिजाइनिंग, अगर किसी ने इंजीनियरिंग की है तो कैड कैम सुना होगा, कैड कैम सुना है तो बेसिकली कैड इज कंप्यूटर एडेड डिजाइनिंग, राइट? एंड थ्रू दैट यू मेक प्रोटोटाइप्स of working modules of objects and you laid the material through which they are created. जैसे successive layers जो हैं वो build होती हैं अलग अलग material से, which could include host of things including plastic, ceramic, fiber, metal, thermoplastic, resins, right? Any of the material can be used, जिससे आप क्या करते हो, एक सॉफ्टवेयर के थ्रू इंस्ट्रक्शन देते हो and the printer just basically prints in that format only, right? That is with the help of the software where you have designed how you want to get that product out of it, राइट? या एग्जैक्टली मेनली यूज इन मैकेनिकल, ठीक है? और ये 3D प्रिंटर फिर आपको उस सॉफ्टवेयर के साथ इंटीग्रेट करके इस स्किन में से जो मटेरियल आप यूज कर रहे हो उसके अकॉर्डिंग वो चीज, वो एक प्रोटोटाइप या कह लो प्रिंट करके दे देता है जिस मटेरियल को आप यूज करके प्रिंट करवा रहे हो, राइट? सो दैट इज व्हाट एग्जैक्टली इज मेंट बाय 3D प्रिंटिंग और एडिटिव मैन्युफैक्चरिंग, ठीक है? चलिए, सो दैट वाज अ ब्रीफ ऑन इट। मूविंग टू द क्वेश्चन स्ट्रेट फॉरवर्ड, दैट इज, हाँ, it is common, exactly, Pranjal and Vivek. चलिए, so which of the following statements is or are incorrect with respect to the national strategy on additive manufacturing? First, by the year 2030, India aims to increase its share in global additive manufacturing to 5%. Second, under the Ministry of Commerce, an apex body having subject matter experts has been established to lead the mission. Yes. So please mark your answers quickly. चलिए, so we have A, C, B and again A as the answers by Rohit Bhardwaj, Pranjal, Chandrakant, Mehboob and Vivek and Anushri. Rashi also has typed the answer. चलिए, ठीक है। तो देखो, पहली स्टेटमेंट जो है वो गलत है, क्यों? बिकॉज इट इज नॉट बाय 2030 बट वी आर सेइंग बट इन अ स्पैन ऑफ 3 years, और यू कैन से बाय द ईयर 2025 वी आर एमिंग to increase our share in global additive manufacturing to 5%, right? This 5 is correct, but the time frame is incorrect. So first is false. Second, that under Ministry of Commerce, an apex body has been formed. So that is also incorrect. An apex body is being talked about to be established in the future, to take the things forward, but that is yet to see the light of the day. तो आपकी दोनों स्टेटमेंट जो हैं वो गलत है यहाँ पे, ठीक है? First and second both are incorrect. Hence your answer will be C. That is both 1 and 2 are incorrect. ठीक है जी? तो 2025 तक एम कर रहे हैं हम लोग 3 सालों में अगले के 5% तक जो है हम अपना पूरा अंतरराष्ट्रीय जो कह लो स्तर पे जिस हिसाब से मैन्युफैक्चरिंग या उत्पाद होता है उसके साथ हम इंडिया को कहीं ना कहीं ले जाके खड़ा कर पाए, राइट? देन दिस सब्जेक्ट मैटर एक्सपर्ट्स कंप्राइजिंग एपेक्स बॉडी इज येट टू बी एस्टैब्लिश्ड, ठीक है? इसको बनाने की बात हो रही है लेकिन अभी इसको फॉर्म नहीं किया है, राइट? सो दैट इज व्हाट इज इन लाइन विद द नेशनल स्ट्रेटजी फॉर एडिटिव मैन्युफैक्चरिंग, ठीक है जी? आई बिलीव दिस इज क्लियर। चलिए, सो दैट ब्रिंग्स अस टू द लास्ट क्वेश्चन फॉर द डे, दैट इज match the following locations with the country they are located in. First, this is the area or the region and the country which you have to mark it with or match it with. First is Korzova, Zahoni, Weinenameke and Siret, and the countries are Poland, Hungary, Slovak Republic and Romania. So please mark your answers. These are some locations which have been in constantly in news over the past some days, and I believe that you have got the context as well कि क्यों न्यूज में रही हैं, डिस्कस करेंगे, बट उससे पहले आप आंसर्स मार्क करो एक बार फटाफट। यस, प्लीज बी क्विक। चलिए ठीक है, either you can pause it, I'll start discussing. Anushri is saying B. Pranjal also B. चलो ठीक है, great. So certainly all these statements, you know, Rashi says C. चलो ठीक है, the rest of you can mark your answers. ठीक है, great. So answer is absolutely B, A, B, C, D. सारी चीजें सारे सामने ही मार्क्ड हैं. That is Korsova, Poland, Zahoni, Hungary, Wiener-Nemec, Slovak Republic and Sirte in Romania. ठीक है, तो ये सारे वो evacuation routes हैं जहां से रोड ट्रांसपोर्ट के थ्रू या फिर कह लो थ्रू द लैंड रूट वी आर ट्राइंग टू इवैक्यूएट आवर students who are stuck there, right? So this is the evacuation route for Indian students. Source is courtesy is Vion, right? So you have Poland and the border, you have Romania and the border, Sirte here, you have Hungary, that is the Zahoni post here, and you have Wiener-Nemec border in the Slovak Republic or Slovakia, right? So that is the basically the evacuation drive which obviously all other countries are also planning and certainly we are also planning, right? So that is answer will be B for this question. ठीक है जी, चलिए. So with that we have come to an end. Thank you so much for joining in and interacting also. Study well, stay safe, have a great weekend, bounce back and join with us on Monday. Remember we are also starting with a new series on Monday at 2:30 p.m. and I hope you will be there to have the weekly current affairs series which is beginning next week, right? So until then, stay safe, study well, Jai Hind and bye-bye.